What's up, a cinemashogun here, and when it comes to this case about the 3 Kansas City Chiefs fans who were found frozen to death in their friend's backyard, everyone is waiting on the autopsy results. Everyone is waiting on the toxicology report as if those documents or those reports are going to solve this case. You know, this is one of those cases where the autopsy report doesn't bring any closure. Yeah, I would assume that these guys had something in their system. They didn't just go in the backyard sober as heck and freeze to death. Hey, let's all stand here like weeble wobbles and freeze to death. No. Either they got drunk and passed out, which I don't think that's the case. Maybe they OD'd on something. I do think that is highly likely. But I think it's safe to assume that something's in their system. Regardless if it's drugs, poison, if they knew they were taking this or they didn't know, there's going to be something in their system. But that doesn't solve anything. Since day one, I've basically been operating under the assumption that these guys had something in their system. I don't know why people are acting like, oh, that's going to solve the mystery. That's not the mystery. The mystery is, why did Jordan Willis not do anything? Why did he ignore phone calls, ignore knocks at the door, ignore text messages for 2 days straight as his friends were dead in the backyard? And I've looked at this house. I've looked at pictures from inside the house. You're not going to tell me if this guy was walking around and if he was active at all, you would have seen the body on your back porch or maybe the other 2 bodies in your backyard. I fully believe he would have seen it. But they want us to believe that this guy slept for 2 days straight. This well-established scientist that was working on the cure for HIV, he just sleeps for days on end. Just days on end. Listen, I have partaken in some party stuff before. I've slept late. I've never slept for 2 days straight. Now, I've never done any hardcore stuff like maybe what these guys were doing. Who knows what they were doing? But at the end of the day, regardless of what they were doing, that doesn't solve this case. I want to know how they got in that backyard. Why was the coat left inside? Why was no one called? And why does the story keep changing? The story keeps changing because we're not being told the truth. And Jordan's lawyer keeps speaking out. And listen, I think this guy is dumb, but at the same time, I feel like Jordan isn't giving him much to work with. The lawyer obviously isn't going to go out here on the news and say, Jordan's guilty, Jordan knew they were dead. You know, he has to defend Jordan, but he's being given very little to work with. You know, and even the lawyer has acknowledged that there are pieces of information that Jordan withheld from him and started to tell him later on, only once it came out, like the 5th friend. It doesn't appear that Jordan's lawyer knew much about the 5th friend until recently. And as far as the 5th friend claiming that he texted and called Jordan, Jordan never told his lawyer that until the 5th friend revealed it. So not only are we not getting the whole truth, Jordan's lawyer isn't even getting the whole truth. And throughout these interviews, you know, I really thought this guy was kind of dumb and he's really, you know, not doing Jordan any favors. But as these interviews go on, it's become clear to me that Jordan hasn't given his lawyer a clear picture. He hasn't sat down and had an understanding with his lawyer about what happened. Jordan is feeding his lawyer tidbits of BS, and his lawyer is having to go on national news networks trying to work with what he's given. Now, do I think the lawyer is the sharpest tool in the shed? No. Do I think that he is messing things up big time? Yes, but at the same time, let's not all put the blame on the lawyer when we have to remember that this information is coming from Jordan. The lawyer isn't making this stuff up. Jordan is making this stuff up, or he's telling the truth and changing details about the truth every 5 minutes. I would have to go rewatch all of the interviews to find some good examples of what I'm talking about, but I do remember there were several points across these interviews where it was clear that even the lawyer was confused about the details, that the lawyer wasn't totally sure about how everything played out that day. And these are details that the lawyer should know. Jordan should have had the conversation with his lawyer, and these details should have been hammered out. But if you go and watch the interviews, you can tell at certain points that, this lawyer doesn't have information that he should have. Like there's missing chunks of information that the lawyer should have. And it seems like the lawyer is being told new information and the lawyer is being given tidbits of different information and changed information throughout every interview. So, like I said, we could look at the lawyer and be like, man, this is a bad look, because it is. But one thing I think we all have to remember, even myself, is that at the end of the day, the lawyer is just the figurehead. He's just the talking head. He's doing the talking for Jordan. This information that we're all skeptical about, it's coming from Jordan. The lawyer isn't making it up. But with that being said, I want to roll this clip because the lawyer sat down and did another interview. And once again, this interview is all over the place. Before I play it, though, I need a huge favor from all of you all. It's totally free. It takes 2 seconds. I need you to hit that like button. Let's get this video to 3,000 likes. And I need you all to subscribe if you haven't already. But with that being said, let's roll this little news clip, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
If all of that is true, there is still a question. This has to be about drugs. Booze, drugs, whatever it is. Because if they're not shot and they're not stabbed and they're all dead, it just strains common sense to believe they could have wound up in this predicament if it wasn't done to them without drugs. It is the elephant in the room. What is the position of your client?
As I told you last night, Chris, I'm not in a position to comment on that at this time for a variety of reasons, not just on behalf of Jordan. And when and if the toxicology report comes out and when we get it, I'd certainly be happy to comment on it at that time. I'm not going to speculate about the activity and the behavior of other people who were not in the presence of my client at some point in time that evening or early morning hours.
And look, we both understand the dilemma, okay? If the tox comes out and they had whatever it is in it that makes this a more understandable situation, he's now going to be chasing his responsibility as opposed to being in front of it and owning what happened that night. And one of those is a much more satisfying thing in terms of credibility. You're aware that that is the dilemma here.
No, I don't see it that way. And, he has an attorney and I'm representing his best interest. And he did nothing wrong. And that's what we're saying. That's what we're maintaining. And that's what we're going to say, no matter what comes back in that autopsy report.
Right. Well, something's going to come back. And I will give you a platform at that time, and we'll discuss it, because things just never don't make sense. Eventually, it will make sense, and responsibility will lie where it does, and we'll take it to its logical conclusion. John Paserno, thank you very much for being with us
Chris,
again. Yes,
I would like to address those the phone calls and the text messages if I could, since the reporter left that hanging out there.
Go ahead, because the initial suggestion was he only got a Facebook message and nobody was really trying to get him. Malik says that's not true, because the fifth friend says that he was getting messages and he was trying to find him and he wasn't getting his messages answered either. So what is it?
So I have sent your staff the records, his phone records, which I acquired this afternoon, and also the text message records. And during that period of time, the phone calls that came in on the early morning hour after the game on the 7th and the early morning hours of the 8th, all the way to the 8th, and then all the way to the 9th when the police came. The only calls that came in were one from his dad, which we recognize the number, and you have the actual numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other calls, there were 8 of them that came in from what is a dummy number. He has a robo killer app on his phone. And so when calls come in that are unrecognized or for whatever reason, they read as this dummy number. I've dialed this dummy number myself. It's a non-existent number. You get a message saying whatever. It's a dummy number. And then the only other call that came in was all zeros, a call that he blocked again from a robocop.
What
as far
about
as
text?
the text messages?
Yeah.
Robotech. Yeah. As far as the text messages go, what you have, there are a series of incoming text messages. That's all we have. There are no outgoing text messages. So the corollary to that, what goes along with what makes sense to that is when you and I get a text message, typically we're going to respond. If somebody texts you and says, hey, these 3 guys are missing, and they're your friend, you're going to respond. If Alex had said, if someone had said to him, the text message came in, why don't you respond? You would respond to your friend, right? That's what you would do.
Maybe.
The reporter wanted to twist my words when I said he didn't receive any messages. And technically I'm right. His phone received the messages. If you don't look at it, you did not receive the messages. I guess I should have said he didn't read the messages. And yes, as far as the text message from his friend, he did not tell me about that. And when I was informed of that, I asked him about that. And then he told me that's right. So there's 2 text messages, or excuse me, a Facebook message and a text message. And neither one he got before the police arrived at his home.
All right.
But the phone records that you have are consistent with him. If you look at them, the calls were early in the morning.
Yeah,
and
we
then
have
his
them.
dad called at noon and he picked up. He didn't pick up any in the morning. He didn't pick up any in the evening when he would have been sleeping. There were no other phone calls. And the text messages, the same way. There's no outgoing text messages those 2 days.
Right.
Which, as you know, who can stay off their phone for 2 days straight unless you're principally sleeping it out of it and you don't have your phone around you? So everything is consistent with what you
It
said.
was the RoboCop. It was the Robo Killer. The RoboCop, the robocall. Man, when I saw this interview, I busted out laughing. It's the RoboCop, Robo Killer calls. Oh man, listen. We weren't there that day. I don't have access to Jordan's phone. Anything could be true, anything could be false. But when looking at this situation, we have Jordan claiming, no one was calling me, it's just a bunch of robocalls. We got Jordan claiming that no one was trying to contact him. Meanwhile, we have 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 families claiming they all were trying to get in contact with Jordan. Now we have the 5th friend who also said he was trying to get in contact with Jordan. So we have a dilemma on our hands. We have to choose, who do we believe in this scenario? We have 3 people dead. All of their families, various members of their families, by the way, are all saying they tried to contact Jordan. We have the 5th friend saying that he tried to contact Jordan once the families contacted him. All right? And then on the other hand, we have Jordan. 3 dead bodies were just found in your backyard, and you're claiming that no one was calling you. Who do you believe in this scenario? It's not a hard choice for me. It's not a hard decision. I'm definitely going to believe the family members of the deceased, along with the other friend. You got to remember that the 5th friend not only texted Jordan, the 5th friend said that, oh, I texted Jordan because of all of these families of the deceased that got in contact with me. So if they're going to contact the 5th friend, of course they're going to contact Jordan. But remember what I said. It's clear that Jordan hasn't even told the whole story to his lawyer. Jordan's lawyer had to ask him, hey, did the 5th friend text you too? And then Jordan had to say, yeah. But Jordan has this excuse of, oh, it's the RoboCop calls. It's the robocalls. You got to do better than that. I just feel like you got to do better than that. 3 dead bodies were found in your backyard. Families desperately trying to get in contact with you. And here's my thing. The family members showed up at the door. They banged on the door for 20 to 30 minutes. Other family members popped up, banged on the door. They literally resorted to breaking into the house. Do you think that they would have done all of that without calling first? We know for a fact. We don't know about the phone calls, right? We don't have the call log. I don't care what information the lawyer provided to News Nation. You know, that could be tampered with. Jordan could have deleted the calls. I don't believe that nonsense. What we know for a fact, concrete fact, is that family members popped up at Jordan's house, banging on the door, eventually broke into his house, and they discovered the dead body on the back porch. Who in their right mind is going to go to someone's house, bang on the door, and break into the house without calling and texting first? Once you show up at the house banging on the door, you've already exhausted all attempts of communication over the phone. Once you literally resort to breaking into the home, you know they had to call beforehand. So all of this talk about no one was calling Jordan, I don't believe that at all. And let's just say it is true. Let's say no one contacted Jordan. That doesn't change anything. These people's cars are still in front of your house. We know for a fact at least one jacket was still in the house. Everyone keeps saying, oh, the wallets, the keys, they were all in the house. The phones were all in the house. We don't know that. There's a lot of he said, she said on the internet. None of this stuff is official information, which is another thing I talked about in a previous video. You know, we don't have official confirmation about really hardly anything from law enforcement. So be careful with some of the details you see online, because some of this stuff just, might not be true. Also, I know that people are going to crawl out of the woodwork saying, I knew Jordan or I knew the victim. And they're going to come on channels and they're going to do interviews. We don't know how reliable their information is. We don't even know if these people really know these people. You got to be careful there, okay? But as far as this situation goes, I'm going to believe the families of the victims before I believe Jordan. And if you look at how things played out, I mean, common sense would tell you, I would assume that these people would have at least called you once before breaking into your house looking for their loved ones. So this, it's robocalls. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. At this point, man, just come clean. Say what it is. I don't think Jordan necessarily killed these individuals purposely. I think that most likely an accident happened. An accident that Jordan knew about. And instead of taking accountability, instead of jumping in front of this situation, he decided, hey, I'm going to try to wipe my hands clean of this. I don't even want to acknowledge that there was any wrongdoing that I partook in or that I witnessed. So I'm going to separate myself from the situation. I'll pretend that I will sleep for 2 days as my friends are, getting froze in the backyard. But I am really looking forward to what this lawyer has to say next, because at this point, it's only going to get more ridiculous from here. Right now, they're blaming RoboCop calls. It's only going to get more ridiculous from here, unless he comes clean. But the more this drags out, the more the lawyer talks, the more we hear, the more that I think that Jordan knows something. But let me know what you know. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. While you're down there, if you're feeling generous, you can donate to the channel via CashApp. I'll have my CashApp in the pinned comment. Or you can donate via Super Thanks, or for free. You can help the channel by sharing this video on social media, liking the video, subscribing, ringing that notification bell, all of that good stuff. But with that being said, I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.